Nochime, we're back with lesson 2. This is the following page of the Florentine. So this is page 3. Yesterday we did page 2, and yesterday was about Huitzilopochtli. So as you can see, these are just kind of intended to be just like a short description of the Teotl. So the Teotl today is actually, his name is Paynal, and he's very closely related to Huitzilopochtli. Okay, so they said they were going to cover all the principles that they'll make sense that they would cover. One related to Huitzilopochtli since he was their main deil. But here we go. We have Inik. Remember when Inik precedes a number? This is not it's Ome. Why would they put a V for O? I don't know. But this is Inik Ome Capítulo. Okay, so this is the second chapter. And then Itechpa, we learned Itechpa yesterday. It means concerning. Okay, so concerning what is said, Tlahtoa, concerning what is said about the Teotl. This is not Teut, this is Teotl. In Itoka Paynal. Now, those of you, I know several people have told me that they're learning Huasteca Nahuatl. So if you're learning Huasteca Nahuatl, you should know immediately what the Itoka means. Itoka comes from I plus Tokait. So this is his name. Okay, so if you want to say my name, you say no toca. Okay, his name, Itoka. Your name, mo toca. Okay, and so that is how it's constructed. So it's a beautiful thing. If you're learning a modern variety, you can see like this is not very different from the modern varieties, right? Like if you speak Azteca Nahuatl, you'll be able to understand that pretty easily, right? And they're saying over here that the name Paynal means he who hasteneth. It's just kind of weird, right? It's kind of that biblical kind of talk again. Let's see what J. Richard Andrews has to say about that. J. Richard Andrews is a very prominent linguist, and this book, Introduction to Classical Nahuatl, is probably the most exhaustive source that there is. He talks about literally everything in that book. The only problem is he makes it very difficult to read because he came up with this weird formula that nobody seems to understand. And that's like the big drawback with J. Richard Andrews. Like he didn't have to do this, right? Like but anyways, it's very thorough nonetheless. He says the Paynal, in this case, you are called because of the the. So the Paynal part means he is one who has been swift in running. Okay. Or he is swift in running. So if we contrast that, right, with he who hasteneth, right? Like that's a very different definition. So he who is swift in running is what Paynal means. And it's coming from the verb stem pena. Pena means to run swiftly. Okay, so that's the root of it. So that's where the name comes from. Okay, so we have again inik ome capítulo y techpa tlahtoa in teotl in itoka painal. And then the next part, okay, is in. This is that word again. See, when you're looking at it, it just seems impossible to pronounce, but I'm gonna write it again here. Gimo Deo Dia. Okay. So in Gimo Dia. This ya is actually it's the past tense, so that's why it says whom they worshipped, so it's past tense. This makes it past tense. It's actually called past perfect, but for some reason they use it a lot in the Florentine Codex. Okay. And it says Iwan in Kitlamanilia. Yeah, remember this is yeah, Weka. So see, as we go, it's gonna become easier, right? Because we're gonna know. Okay, this is yeah. And this is Weka. Weka. Now, this YE would look, I think I defined it yesterday. So yeah, remember I thought at first that it wasn't like a translated part. It says yeah already. Okay. Now it says somewhat similar to oh, although it belongs even less to the verbal complex, is the particle yeah. Already, often it need not be translated. It simply reinforces the sense that something occurred in the past. Okay. So here's an example. Yeah, okis in donatio. So a lot of times it doesn't have to be translated as I suspected yesterday. Okay, so we could just say, and it's actually not translated here. Okay, in ancient times. So they didn't notice they didn't say in already ancient times, right? They just said so it's kind of like just reinforcing. It's not translated directly. So now we know how good old Dibble and Anderson are coming back with the sacrifices. Okay, so we have Ki Tlamanelía. In this case, it's Ki Tlamanelía ya. Ki Tlamanelía ya. Kind of a tongue twister, but it's also got the ya in the back. Okay, it's this part, the past tense. Okay, that's how we're that's how they're conjugating the verb into the past tense. Now, if we look up Ki Tlamanelía, as you probably already suspect, it's not going to be sacrifice. So it means to put something before someone or to make an offering to a god, right? Or to set things in order with respect to one another, lay things out for someone to mend something. So nowhere there does it say sacrifice, right? Like here, it's actually listing all the offerings. I kind of mentioned them yesterday. Copal, uh, paper, flowers, tobacco, rubber, okay, foods. These are all considered tlamanilia. So you use that loaded word sacrifices, right? And that just takes you to a place where we don't even need to go because they're not talking about that. They're not talking about human offerings or anything like that, right? Okay, so now we're set. This this key right here, those of you who are still learning the grammar, the key is referring to in this case Paynal. Okay, so they're giving the offerings to Paynal, giving it to him. Okay, so let's go down here. Paynal was the delegate, the substitute, the deputy, because he represented Huitzilopochtli. So let's see what these words are composed of here. So first of all, this word, patilotia, it comes from patilotia. So let's look that up. So patilotia, to take the place of another or substitute for him. Okay, so they're translating that as a delegate, right? Like the substitute. He's taken the place. So it's saying that he's taken the place of Huitzilopochtli, right? And so this word is very similar. It's mo teiship, mo teiship tlatiani, mo teiship tlatiani. If you're following along, you'll probably notice that the the verbs are going to be the most difficult part of this, because there's so many ways that you can conjugate a verb, right? Like in this case, this is not a verb anymore because it says the ni ending. So I'll give you another example right here. Like we talked about yesterday, la toani, and this means the ruler, the leader, the speaker of the people, right? Tlatoani. This ne makes it a noun, so it's like it's he who is the speaker, he who is speaking, he who habitually speaks is what that's saying. So same thing here. These are nouns now. Okay, the delegate, the substitute, the root verb here. That's the other thing you got to understand in Nahuatl. If you see a noun, there's most likely going to be a verb equivalent that it derives from. And if you see a verb, there's probably going to be a noun, right? So you can derive nouns from verbs and verbs from nouns. And so in this case, it's teishipla. Teishipla is the verb that has turned into a noun. Teishipla. Teishipla. Okay, so there it is right there. And this, the image of someone that's a substitute or a delegate, a ritual representative of a deity. So a lot of times in the ceremonies, they would like dress somebody up as Paynal or Huitzilopochtli, and they would be the representative of that deity. But when you're dressed up and you're you're still that thing. So if you're dressed up as a deity, then you are that deity for religious purposes. Okay, so both of these are pretty legit definitions, right? Delegate, substitute, based on what we can see here. And then it says tepan. Tepan is actually not translated here. Okay. Those of you who know Huasteca, again, I mention Huasteca a lot because that's the one that I'm studying the most. So I know a lot of Huasteca. And Huasteca, it's Teipan. Teipan means later. And Tepan means exactly the same thing. So we say later or after that, right? He's also the deputy. This is Mishewani. Mishewani. Now for this one, I couldn't find any corresponding verb for that, so we'll just trust the definition here that it's a deputy. So something similar to these. Okay. And it probably also has something to do with ish. Whenever you see ish, right? This is like ish is the prefix used for face. Okay, so we can see the relation here. And then you have what looks to be iehika, right? But that can't be right. It can't be iehika. A lot of times these I's are Y. Okay, so if you're doing too many, if you're straining to pronounce these, it's usually an indicator that it's not, that's not how it's supposed to be, because Nahuatl language has a lot of rules that prevent awkward sounds. Okay, so Ayahika is a little, that's too difficult to say. Nahuatl would not allow that. So that's the cool thing about Nahuatl. There's processes that prevent it. So it says Yahika, Yahika. Okay. And we can go ahead and put that in here, Yahika. Yahika means because, for that, given that, because. So in this case, it's it's kind of a synonym for Ipampa. Okay, Ipampa is used a lot as well. So it's kind of like a synonym for that. Okay, so it means because he, it is he who represented Huitzilopochtli. Okay. So we're, this word right here, Xiplatia, that's an interesting word. Xiplatia. See if I can find. I think the embedded verb is here. Xiplati. And it's going to be to attend in a place of another or impersonate somebody. Okay. And so again, these are all like very similar words, right? So he represented or impersonated Huitzilopochtli. In Huitzilopochtli, and then it says in Iquac, in Iquac. Iquac is still used today, mostly in central varieties, not really Huasteca. And Huasteca is actually Geman, Geman. This is it right here. Okay, so when in Iquac is when there was a procession, he was given the name Paynal. So when there was a procession, he was given the name Paynal. Okay. Now this is interesting because this mo is actually reflexive. Okay, so they're saying it means given, but if you have a reflexive, that's signifying that it's like he gave himself the name, right? And so this word, let's see if we can find procession. Procession. Okay, so the word for procession is Tlaya Walolisli. Tlaya Walolisli. I'm gonna type that here because that's what it's intended to be, but again, the orthography is just so butchered. It's so hard to see that. Okay. Now, we're not always going to be able to find corresponding verbs. In this case, I couldn't. I just found this, which is clearly, I mean, it means procession, and it's clearly the same thing as this. You can see it. So this should be spelled Tlaya instead of I. It's not Tlaia Oa. It's not Tlaia Oa Loa Ia. That's crazy. Can't pronounce that, right? So we're gonna say Tlaya, this OA is the HUA. Tlaya wa lo. In this case, Tlaya wa lo lisli. In the case of the verb, it's gonna be that ya at the end, because it's there was, this was. Past tense is coming from the IA, which of course is actually a YA. So let me rewrite it up here. And then once we rewrite it, it'll be a little easier to pronounce. Okay. Playa Walo Aya. Playa Walo Aya. And I don't know, it's usually we drop the A for a verb like that. I'm assuming the verb is Playa Waloa. Usually like it's dropped. They kept it here for some reason. So I don't know if it's a typo or what, but it could be Playa Waloya. Okay. And that means there was a procession. He was given the name. So we can see the toca. Toca is here, right? So we know that this is the word that they're talking about here. He's given the name. And then we've got the ya at the end. So that's the was. Yeah. And we're gonna have to get used to that because we're talking about past tense. A lot of these words are gonna be just like that. They're gonna be past tense, but using the ya, which is kind of like a not it's like it's past perfect, so it's not like the legit kind of standard way of saying the past tense, right? It's kind of like was, we were doing, we were. So they're actually pronouncing fine here. It's just surprising that they would use ya, okay? Because ya is like it's not like the distant past. It's like very recent. But that's what they chose, and that's what they're using. So we'll go with it. But I'm sure we'll see the conjugation, the regular conjugation at some point. Okay, so the verb here is toca toca y tía. Toca y tía is what's happening here. Okay, so mo toca y tía is how you pronounce that. Toca y tía. Will be to name someone. Okay, so as you can see, this is related to the to the noun tokait. So that's what's happening there. But again, the weird thing is that it's small, right? So it's mo toca tokaitia. So like he's naming himself Paynal. Okay, so in Iquac Playa Waloya mo tokaitia Paynal. Okay, so when there was a procession, he was given the name Paynal. Oh, here's the Ipampa. Look. Ipampa is a synonym for Yehica. Yehica. Okay, this is because. So Ipampa. Ipampa, why did they give him that name? They gave him that name because they pressed him on quickly. Senka means very much. Okay. Ipampa ka, Senka. This ka is another one of those particles that's not usually translated. I'll show you why. This is Wasteka, so that's not the same ka. This is not the same ka. So it's not the verb ka, okay? It's it's this, because it's a conjugation, because, since, why, that, surely, certainly, for. So it basically means whatever you need it to mean in this case. Because, well, what would make sense? Because surely, right? or for that reason, surely, because surely, for that reason, they very much pressed him on quickly. He was made to hasten. Okay. Maybe you may be wondering, why did they put the very much in the front? Like that doesn't sound right. Like because very much they pressed him on quickly and he was made to hasten, right? Like word order and now what doesn't really matter much. As long as you can make sense of it, it's fine. And so that's the one thing that a lot of people have really struggle with. Just the order is so free that people are like, people don't like it, because they're like, wait a minute, I need it to be structured, I need it to be ordered. But this is the verb ki tototsa. We see it here, ki tototsa. And then the ya at the end, right, to make it past perfect. Ki tototsa. So let's see what we can make of that. To hurry someone along. Yeah, they pressed him on quickly. They hurried him along. Okay, that might be a better definition instead of pressed him on quickly. They very much hurried him along. Okay, it's probably a better definition, more true to the Nahuatl. And then you have this word, kimo tlaloch tia ya. Kimo tlaloch tia ya. Again, you got the the ya at the end. So we got to figure out what this verb is. That's going to be, so there's a verb you may be familiar with, la loa. La loa means to run away. Okay, so ninot la loa means I run away. Ninot la loa. So it's based on that, but it's tlalochtia. Tlalochtia. Tlalochtia means to make someone run away, right? To make someone run. And so we have applicative verbs, the causative verbs, right? So in this case, it's a variation of the tlalochtia. So they made, who did they make run away? They made ki run away. Gimo. Okay, and that's Paynal. So they're making him run away. Okay. So they pressed him on quickly. They made him run away. By the way, this, because it's talking about they, this should have an H at the end, the glottal stop. Whenever they talk about they, because without the glottal stop, these verbs mean one person is doing that thing. Okay, but that's not the case. We have multiple people. Okay, so once again, ipampa ka senka ki tots totots aya ki totots aya with H at the end, and then kimo tlaloch tiaya. Kimo tlaloch tiaya with H at the end. Okay, and he was made to hasten. Okay, so I guess that's why they made the name. Apparently, this impersonator, he ran away. They make him run away. There's probably a deeper meaning there. I don't know what it is, but that's what we could say about that. All right, let's move on to this one. Au and au. Au, it's a particle beginning a new independent statement. We did that yet last time. And, but, or. In this case, it'll be and. Okay. And the people, look, Masa, Maseo Alti, Maseo Alti. No, that should look familiar from yesterday. I know I'm crazy, but I'm gonna do one of these every single day. So when I say yesterday, like I literally did that yesterday. And this is how we can improve. Okay. So this is a bit of a typo. We know for sure that if you're talking about more than one Masawali, this is supposed to be Masawalti. The N is missing at the end. Why didn't they didn't put it? Again, maybe the Spaniards didn't hear it, right? This actually happens a lot with native Nahuatl speakers, like modern day, who don't really know how to write or read Nahuatl. This happens a lot. Like if you ask somebody who has never written or read Nahuatl, but they're fluent, they can speak and understand it. A lot of times they will not write, the sound, all the sounds. Okay, and that's just because of unfamiliarity, but also because when they're speaking, sometimes it's like when we're speaking English, right? Like I just said when. I didn't enunciate when right now. When. We don't say when every time. Same thing with Nahuatl. Okay, people are speaking at a fast pace. A lot of times they might drop sounds. Masawalte, masawalte, right? And so that could be part of the reason. But it's masawalte, which is plural. Notice how in the first entry for Huitzilopochtli, they translated it as common person, but here it's just people, right? So what's up with that, Anderson and Dibble? But yeah, the comment in this case probably it's talking about people in general. A lot of times they'll use tlaca for people in general, not usually masahualti. So maybe it could be the common people. They followed him. Ki tocaya. Ki tocaya. So you may be wondering, well, what's happening there? Ki tocaya. That's it looks like toca again, right? So let's see. Ki tocaya. Ki tocaya. I don't know how that translates to followed him. Mm, I couldn't find that, but then we have Kitokaya, and then they follow him in pursuit. Ki Tlaloch Tokaya. Okay, so the toka they must be translating that toka part as following. Let me just type in follow and see what comes up. Yep, there it is. So a lot of times you just got to be using the right source. So that toka does appear to be like, moving, going about. So they're going about, they're following him, they're following him in pursuit. We know this is pursuit because this means he's running away now, right? He's running away. Okay, and then you have they went howling, crying war cries. So I tried to find the verbs for these, but I could not. So we'll just have to trust this means they went howling, crying war cries. Okay. And there's actually a citation, the suffix diuha. Okay. Wasn't helpful. So, and then it says they went raising the dust. Okay. Making the ground smoke like a thing possessed, the earth rumble. So the interesting thing here is they're using tlali to mean ground here, and then they're using tlali to mean earth here. Okay, so tlali could mean dirt, could mean ground, it could mean earth. So in this Depends on the context, right? So in this case, oh, this is a really fascinating word. Nahuatl. I'm gonna write it with the modern orthography because none of these classical orthographies really does it justice, and it causes a lot of people to mispronounce it. This is what it. This is the sound that you should be making. So a lot of people will read this and say, "Oh, the utli," right? That's not right. Another similar word is tekutli. A lot of people say tekutli, right? But that's not right. This is so basically what we're looking at is this WH. This is a this is a signal for, in my opinion, the most difficult sound in all of Nahuatl. To me, it took me a very long time to practice before I mastered it. And to me, I think it's even harder than that, the TL ending sound. Tlacat, tlacat, I think it's harder than that. It takes a lot of practice. Long story short, you can read up on the linguists in the motherlode document here, but it just basically means, or it's pronounced like a pause. Like there's a pause there before you move on. Like this is voiceless. It kind of trips people out, right? Like, why would they write that if it's voiceless, right? But it's it goes like this. This one would be dectly, dectly. So there's kind of like a small pause if you can hear, right? Dectly, dectly. And nothing is pronounced here. It's just dectly. So this represents like a pause. It's a voiceless sound, which is pretty crazy. Okay, but good for the Spaniards. They wrote it. They knew something was going on there, so at least they wrote something in its place, right? And so if this is Tekli, this is Tetli, 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 Tetli. Okay, so you can think of just ignoring it, this middle part, but also at the same time just pausing a little bit. And that means dust. Raising the dust. This verb here means raising. And then there's a very interesting process here that I'll mention. Let's see. Get still. Get still. Get still. Oh no. So gets is the root. Gets is to make something rise up. So this last part is diwia. Not pronounced diuja, diuja. It's diwia. Kikets diwia. Kikets diwia. And where does that come from? Well, let's go to the translation here. They went. That's the went part. The we they went. They went. Raising. That's the gets. The gi is referring to the dust. Gi. They went raising the dust. Okay. So whenever you use key, you gotta specify what is the key referring to. In this case, it's deathly, deadly. So that's really cool. Let me show you. This is Joe Campbell. It's imperfect tense. Okay, so whenever you see the wea, you went. Okay, you went. And so that tracks with translations. Good job there. All right, so tlali, ki, potots, tiwia. They're using tiwia again. You see that? Tiwia. So that means they went. They went raising the dust. They went making the ground smoke. Okay, so that verb there means to make the ground smoke. And this is the ground here. And then you have ikin. Ikin. I don't know if we covered this yesterday. Let me plug it in over here. Equine. So it means like that. Equine. Okay, equine. This is also still used in the Huasteca Nahuatl today. So like that. So like like that. What is that? A thing possessed. So I couldn't find the verb for this one. This is tlaishkiki, tlaishkikisa. This is S. Tlaishkikisa. Okay. So probably it's got a kisa somewhere in there. Ah, yes. So it's saying that it's a thing possessed, right? It's saying to erupt, to show, to happen, to emerge, to come out. Let's see what happens if we put a key. Oh, there we go. To go by. Okay, that doesn't track. Ha, found it. So that's the thing about Nahuatl. They're not only are there, thousands of verbs, but there are almost endless ways to manipulate the verbs. And that's what makes it an agglutinative language. Okay, you can put prefixes, you can put suffixes, you can even put particles in the middle of the verb. Like on. On means in that direction, right? And so just by adding this ishkikisa, remember we said we started with kisa and that meant to go by, right? And that didn't track, that didn't match the translation. But then we added kikisa, that changed it a little bit. And then you add the ish, and guess what? It's a completely different word. It's not only you're going around, but you're going around in a daze. Okay, ishkikisa. So it's completely changed the verb. So we got to be careful with that. So then this can be, instead of like a thing possessed, more precisely, it could be like uh things that things that stumble around in a daze. Okay. So like, because see the tla is multiple things. It's not just one thing, right? So it's not like a thing possessed. It's like things stumbling around in a daze. Atlali, the earth rumbled. This is a really, really interesting one because this verb, tetequika, it's this that is fire, so it has to do with Like we'll go back here. It has to do with like rumbling. That's kind of similar to like thunder, right? And so there's a lot of different words there that are linked. And that mean, something related to light flashing or something related to the light fire. So let me go back and I'm going to delete all this. Okay, so there we go. Ikin tlaixcuicuisa tlali tetecuica. So you see how these C's don't have that little hook on the bottom? That's how you know they're the K sound, not the S sound. So let's remember that. Okay, au and setlaca, one man, or it could also mean a man, same thing, carrying the image in his arms. Okay, so quina palotilla. And that that's that tia again that we saw earlier, or tiwaya. This is tiwaya. Quina palo tiwaya. And Kinapaloa means he carries them. Okay. Them, this is plural, them. They just put the image, right? But there's multiple things they're carrying. Keen, and they also forgot an N, by the way. It should be, so another typo here. Keen, na, baloa. The, now in this case, the A is dropped. I mentioned it before, the A is supposed to be dropped. So, Kina apalotiwia. Okay. And remember, tiwia ending just means used to, went around. They went. That's this part. Went around, carrying. And so that is that part. Oh, we're going faster. Every day as we go, probably will get faster and faster because a lot of the structure is the same, a lot of the words will repeat, right? So it become easier for us. And so let's go on to the last part. This is talking about what Paynal looks like, what he wears. Just a small note here. Oh, Inik. You'll notice that before we saw Inik, there was a number following the Inik. That's not the case here. There's no number. Okay. So what does that mean? Let's go back here. So it says Inik, uh, a number into an ordinal, like from one to first, two to second. So that's what we encountered before because it was in front of a number. But in this case, Unique can mean in order that, such a way, thus, so that, as to, an order, which, with. So there's a lot of basically whatever you need it to be in that situation. Okay. And thus. Okay, so they're saying, and thus he was arrayed. Okay. This is an interesting one because the root verb there has a mo in front. Okay, this it's not muchich io aia, right? Let me rewrite that. That's part of the battle, man. Just that's why this is really hard work, Like and a lot of linguists don't even bother to try to pronounce it, right? Because look how much work it is. It takes so much to figure out what the heck they're writing. Those of you who speak modern variety will recognize this. Chiwa. Okay, chiwa is to make. Notice a lot of these verbs are being reduplicated, right? So when they get reduplicated, they mean something completely different. So that's one way to make endless verbs. The issue here, though, is this is a mo, and so they're saying that he was arrayed, like somebody arrayed him. Or arrayed, I don't like that definition. I think a more precise word, if we say mo chichiwaya, mo chichiwaya, that means he dressed himself. So arrayed, I guess, is a synonym, right? But the essence of the translation is, and then he dressed himself. So if you notice as we go, like some of these are reflexive, right? So some of these things he's doing to himself. And so that's not always captured in the translation. And then we have this really interesting word. It's not teu, it's teo, which we touched upon yesterday, and I told you that we'd get to talk about it some more. So here's our opportunity. I'm going to rewrite it right here so that we can actually read it. Okay. So the main verb here is kemetia. Kemetia. Okay, so teo kemetia. We have that Diwaya again. So in this case, we need to add that. So it's teo que metía. Now here's the thing about the word. Que metía means to wear. Okay, to wear something. Que metía, to wear something. Now this is saying to wear something that's teo like, to wear something that's teo. Well, how are they translating that over here? Let's see. Costly. Look. So they're translating Theo as costly. And so, like I told you yesterday, right? Theo can't mean just God. It has to mean, in this case, something expensive, something precious, right? Costly cape, rare, something rare, maybe something extraordinary. So not everything is gonna be talking about a God, right? So um he dressed he uh he dressed himself, and then he wore he went wearing. So see, they put he went because of the diwaya at the end. Okay, he went diwaya. This is diwaya. He went wearing, but they put garbed. I don't know why they're using such weird words, But yeah, he went wearing. He was dressed. He dressed himself, and then he went wearing a costly. And then this right here is a cape of precious feathers. Okay, from the root word quetzali. Okay, so that we'll take as just a cape of precious feathers. In con tlali tiwaya, again, tiwaya. So he went about, right? uh, Ishoa Akalichiole. He had bars painted on his face. I'm just going to take these translations as at face value. And then Ish, again, on the face. So that's where That's how you know we're talking about his face. Okay, so on his face, he had bars painted on his face. And then he had Sitlal. Sitlal is the root for star. Design painted on his face. So probably this Chioale is talking about the design, right? The bar design, the star design. And then he had a turquoise nose rod, which is here. Turquoise nose rod. And so these are just specific words for all of these things. Now here's the crazy thing right here. I'm gonna change the color. His was the hummingbird disguise. So what is that supposed to be, right? His is the hummingbird disguise. Well, we know that Huitzilopochtli has Huitzili in its name. So it makes sense they're connected in that way. So this is Huitzili. So that's hummingbird with duplication. And then you have this word. This is the really interesting word because yesterday, this is Wheats Wheats Wheatsitzil Nawale. And yesterday we discovered a word very close to that with Huitzilopochtli. Where is it at? Here it is. So they said that he was a Nawali, which was translated as a sorcerer, Nawali. This word is very similar. So what could they be talking about, right? They're not saying that he's a sorcerer like Huitzilopochtli. They're saying that it's a hummingbird disguise. So this word right here, in modern times, it's usually written like this. Okay. But what we're dealing with here is a distinct word from Nawali, but very closely related. Nawali, we said, was like a shapeshifter. Okay. Uh, and later in the Florentine, they talk about where the Nawali get their power from. They get the power from, they're connected to Mictlan, to death, basically. And so that's where they get their power from. Okay. But this is not Nawali. This is Nawal. Nawal. And so this, what we're talking about now, is the animal double. The animal double. So what is the thing that the Nawali can transform into, right? That's what the Nawal is. Okay, so maybe you can think about it like the thing that has been the thing he transformed into, right? But basically there's a strong belief that in the Nawali they can turn into a jaguar, they can turn into an eagle, they can turn into any animal, right? And hide in that way. So that's why they're saying disguise himself. But it's a little more than Noah. Now, I'm going to go ahead and search. Before I search, I'm just going to finish this so that because I don't want to get lost. But he had the breast mirror. He had a shield set with the mosaic of turquoise. Okay, so that's this part. El is a prefix that signifies breast. And then you got Deska. I'm going to rewrite this actually because, again, they butchered this word. So L is the breast. Deska comes from Deskat, the mirror. This Oa, it's not El Deska Oa. Whenever you hear too many vowels like that, like three vowels in a row is not typical, and now that's not usually gonna happen, right? And so whenever you hear that, you should investigate. In this case, it's not El Deska Oa, it's El Deskawa. Whoa. Look at that. Al Descawa. And what does that Descawa mean? It means wa means the owner of. So he is the owner of the breast mirror. And they just translated it as he had the breast mirror. I guess same thing, right? He had or he is the owner of the breast mirror. And then he also had the shield, turquoise, shield, chimali, shield chimali. This is the turquoise shield. Okay, so that tracks. So overall, pretty good translation, but this disguise translation, like I said, kind of glosses over something very important. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to search for Nahuatl or Nahuatl. This is a searchable document, so we're in luck. Nahuatl, Nahuatl, which is Nahuatl. Okay, and we're going to see what turns up. It's a lot of pages, so. Oh, well, wait, actually. This is Huitzilopochtli. Okay. They also use oh, I forgot an A, that's why it's not popping up. So this is also Nahuatl. And what they're saying is that they're saying his disguise. They're saying his disguise was the fire serpent. So what this means is Paynal actually transforms into the hummingbird, whereas Huitzilopochtli actually transforms into the Shilkoat. So the Shilkoat they call his weapon, right? The thing that he holds, but it's also his Nahuatl. His Nahuatl. So Huitzilopochtli's Nahuatl is not a hummingbird, as we would suspect. It's a Shilkoat. So Shilkoat is intended to be a living being. And then you have Paynal with the hummingbird. Okay, so that's a little bit more evidence. Let me just pop in this A so we can see the rest. Okay, this one is Paynal. Let's check this out. This one's really interesting. If you notice, there's not a lot of entries for Nahuatl here, but the ones that are here are pretty neat. So it says Tequanahuatl, Tequanahuatl. Tequani means an animal, a wild animal. In this case, uh they call it a wild beast. Okay, so again, he disguised himself into a wild beast. Now, this is talking specifically about people who were born um during that time where they could become Nawali. They call it, look, they call it Amotlaka, which means inhuman. Okay. Nawali, they're Nawali, and they're able to transform into wild beasts. So this is a very, very important one. The one. Now one again. What is this one? Koyo Nawan. Let's see what it says. Um, this guy's it's coyote. Oh my god. It would be so nice if we could just look at it and say, oh, that's coyote, but no, it's never that simple, is it? This should be Kayo, Koyo, Koyo Nawan. Let's see. Koyo Nawan. Okay, so maybe he was disguised as a coyote or a wild beast. Let's check another one. I think this one was a false identification. I don't see anything there. But here's another one. It says in Tlacatecolot. Tlacatecolot is another word for Nawali. It's a synonym, and it means the owl person. They're transferring it, they're translating it as the possessed one. Tlacatecolot. He transforms himself, Moquepani, transforms himself into, now here is where you get the root of the definition. Not only is it a disguise, it's the guise specifically of an animal, right? Because the transforming part is already here. Kwapani, he transforms himself. He assumes the guise of an animal. And so that's where you get the full definition. So now a very important word, as you can see. Uh this one's talking about a vulva. Crushed vulva. Wow. Um this is Nawali. Nawali. So we're looking for what? Sorceress. There you go. Sorceress. A person of sorcery. A possessed one. Okay, so they're translating Nawal as a person of sorcery, but we know that it should be actually a sorceress, actually a shapeshifter, the their animal disguise, and the owl person. So all of these are actually pretty bad definitions. Okay, because again, it's not sorceress, it's shapeshifter. It's not a person of sorcery, it's their animal disguise, the animal disguise of that person. And it's not a possessed one, it's the owl person, Tlacatecolot. Okay, and so we'll stop there. Very important concepts there. Man, this is taking a long time, but hopefully as we go, we're getting better and better. And each time it'll become easier. So thank you for watching again. Tlaskamati, Tiboitase.